And welcome to a brand new podcast, CVOR and NSC, or National Safety Code. This podcast, we're going to help you manage your safety scores. And guess what? My name is Chris Harris, and I'm going to be your host. There we go. Who in the hell am I? My name's Chris Harris. I spent I've been self employed for 10 years now, but before that, I was working for a major trucking insurance company. And they insured fleets right across Canada. So I got a lot of exposure here in Canada for trucking. And before that, of course, I was a recruiter and in the safety department for an 800 fleet trucking company. So that's who I am. That's my experience. This podcast is made for Canadians. I'm a Canadian. I'm based here in Ontario. So sometimes I will use the word CVOR and I really mean NSC, but I'm sure everybody else understands. Damn people from Ontario, we think we are the center of the universe. I know. All right. So largely, we are going to be talking on this podcast about best practices because best practices is the best way I can describe it when a country has 10 provinces and 3 territories, and it is the provinces and the territories that write the highway traffic acts. And that's largely what we operate under in trucking. So it is very similar in all the provinces and territories, but it's also different in the provinces and territories. So frequently, I'm going to use the word best practice because that is what the insurance companies like, and it kind of makes it equal right across the board. All right. So, with that, what I want you to do is text. I'm going to go through a sheet here. All right. I'm going to go through this sheet and I'm going to take myself off. I want you to text that number and I'm going to send you my driver file checklist because this episode of the podcast, that's what we're going to be going through. And I'm going to try to keep these episodes short. So text 365-364-0714. And what do I want you to say on that text? Well, I want you to ask for the DQ checklist. That's all. You understand you're actually texting to a bot, and my bot will answer you back with just 2 questions. So the 2 questions are going to be, what's your first name? And what's the best email address that I can send you the checklist to? All right, that's it. And the computer will automatically throw that into your inbox. And of course, if you don't get it in a couple of minutes, check your spam folder. That happens from time to time. So if you want to follow along, I would encourage you to stop the video right now, do the texting. So just real quick, go back and text 365-364-0714 and text the word DQ checklist and we will be good. You'll have that in your inbox. All right. So with that, let's quickly go through my driver file checklist. And by the way, I'm going to try my best to have a giveaway like this for many of the podcasts. I wish I could say for every podcast, but I don't know that I could do that. But, anyways, this is free. This is a Canadian version of the checklist. If you cross border, this is not the one you need. We'll handle that in a different podcast. So, for today, what do you need in a driver file? Well, you need an application form as a best practice and going back 5 years. And the reason I say 5 years, I remember when I was doing this checklist years ago, one of the provinces wants 5 years of history. Most of the provinces only want three. So that's why I write down five and it becomes a best practice as an example. All right. Then 3 years of references check. All right, you need to get 3 years of the past history for that driver verified. Your insurance company really does want that. Your initial driver abstract or motor vehicle record, depending on your terminology, an MVR, You need that. And I want the initial one has to be within 30 days of the application, is the best practice. And then I want you to keep that for as long as the driver works for you. And I'll explain that in a different episode. If your province has a commercial driver abstract, such as Alberta and Ontario, then get the driver abstract, the commercial driver abstract for that driver. And again, mark it as the original. Start a list of expiries. And here, the 3-year abstract, you need one every 12 months. And if you've got a commercial driver abstract, you need that at least every 12 months. It's a best practice to have it much more frequently. Again, we'll talk about that later. A copy of the driver's license is required. And if I would always tell you to do both sides. Here in Ontario, it is required both sides. I'm not familiar with the other provinces, what information may be on the back. I'll tell you, I can't read the back of my Ontario driver's license, but it is a requirement. So just do both sides of the driver's license. I really think that most companies, especially if you do cross border, you should be doing a criminal record search. Many companies, of course, I know if you're a Canadian only, you may not do it. It is a best practice. Written tests is next. I really think that you need to have the drivers completing a written test, do a test of road rules, the hours of service rules. How often do you do a vehicle inspection, load securement rules, all that kind of stuff. A road test is certainly a best practice, and I think at least 40 kilometers. And make sure you include things like railroad tracks and highways and city streets and backing, all those types of things. An annual review. Yes, at least here in Ontario, it's at least mentioned in the book that the Ontario government has put out, the CVOR safety manual. They tell you right there they want annual reviews. And as a best practice throughout Canada, annual reviews, again, we'll go deeper into some of this stuff in another podcast. Receipt of the company policy manual. Yes, believe it or not, you do need a policy manual. And as silly as it sounds, that policy manual is going to tell your drivers to follow the law. I just about swore. To follow the law there. And that's really important. You do need a policy manual. Your insurance companies will like that. And a current copy of the dangerous goods training and certificate, if you do. TDG, if you don't, of course, you don't need it. A record of all the driver's convictions for the preceding 4 years. Convictions, because it may make that driver uninsurable for you and your fleet. So you need all convictions, those including personal vehicle. You need a list of all collisions, of commercial vehicle collisions. But I would encourage you to have a list of all collisions, not just the ones that you know about in the truck. I think the personal ones is a best practice as well. And record of any administrative penalties that have been imposed on the driver, a record of all training that the driver has had to complete. And certainly, that occupational health and safety have training obligations. The labor board has training obligations. You need to be training your employees, and you certainly need to be training your truck drivers. And I believe much more than once per year. The best practice is at least quarterly, if not monthly, for training. And then, of course, document that training and a record of any training. And lastly, if you are running owner operators, and if your owner operator is allowed to opt out of workers' compensation or WSIB here in Ontario, send those letters into the organization, get confirmation that that driver has opted out. And then, of course, your insurance provider will want that owner operator enrolled in a third party type insurance. All right, so that's it. Please make sure that you text. If you want a copy of my checklist right here, make sure you text 365 364 0714. And again, what word do you want? You want to just text it to me and say DQ checklist, and that's what I will handle. All right, I'll send that out to you. Again, you are talking to a computer bot when you do that, and it sends it out automatically. All right, so that's the first episode of CVOR and NSC, or National Safety Code, where we help manage your safety scores. All right, if you got value from this, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment. All those things help to raise the profile of the podcast and help me an awful lot. All right, so thank you. And don't forget to like and subscribe. That's it. Chris Harris, Safety Dog. I'm out. See you next week.